everyone, and welcome to the Nordic Sound Channel. As always, I am your host, Jameson Foster, and today we have with us Nanna Barslev, or Barslev, is it? Barslev or
Yeah,
Bars?
but it's perfect. It's
All right, cool.
perfect, yes.
So, Nanna has been an active musician in the folk scene since the 90s, and was recently signed onto By Norse Records with her debut album Lysbærer, which released earlier this year. It's been one of my
Also well pronounced.
thank you. Yeah, I do speak I do speak Norwegian, but the Danish pronunciations intimidate me. I was talking to
It's so
Amelia
cool. You are
Lorentzen
so
about
good.
this. All right, cool.
You are so good.
Good. Yeah, it's very intimidating, especially because we were just talking about Matthias is from Denmark. And so I always feel like I'm being watched whenever I say any Danish words. So, Nana, would you like to say hi to everyone?
Yeah, hello and hi from Denmark. It's actually snowing outside and it's morning here and yeah.
Awesome.
So
Yeah, yeah.
totally winter.
Yeah,
Winter.
I'm loving the vibe you have in the back room, in the background there, with the hide on the wall and all those instruments.
Yeah,
It looks
it's
nice
like
and cozy. Yeah.
I'm sitting here.
So, Nana, I before we get into the music that you've been doing recently with By Norse Records, I would love to know more about your background as a musician, even going back early enough. Like, how did you get into music?
Yeah, it was when I was a child. We had a wooden organ, you know, this old where you push a,
Mhm.
uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then I actually played. I was 5 years old or something, and I played church songs actually. And my mom was kind of, wow, how can she make these songs? She's so small, and I was singing these church songs. Yeah, that was the only reference I have. I didn't speak that much actually, so I found out that I could express myself through singing and through music. So it started like that, and then it continued. I was in a church choir, and later on, I turned more wild. It was funny because in the high school, I had this long hair, you know, this curls, and they
Okay.
turned more like this, and I became more like this. So I turned into metal as well in the high school. So and yeah,
Oh, hell yeah. What kind of heavy metal were you listening to in high school?
it was mostly doom folk metal, or doom metal, and yeah,
Hell yeah.
Norwegian metal. Actually, a lot of that gothic and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
what was your favorite band in high school?
Yeah, it was probably a band called Third and Immortal. It's
Oh,
a
yeah, yeah.
Norwegian band. You know them?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I have to do my research.
Yeah.
So that's interesting if that you were into metal because I was expecting you to go into folk music first. So where did the because you play quite a bit of folk instruments, right?
Yeah. But actually, I started making folk music.
Hmm.
Um, I started in the 19s with my sister.
Hmm.
Uh, we wanted to make some kind of medieval music,
Hmm.
and we were asked to make music for a local historical event. So
Okay.
we just composed some music, and I play flute and drum. Yeah. Um, so we started like that, and that's in the beginning of the 90s. We're 92 or something.
Hmm.
So and we called it medieval Viking music or something. So it's before it was popular. No one know what we were doing. They were asking, do you play Irish music? No. It's Nordic folk songs, and you know, Viking. Can you? No. So that was it was another time.
Hmm.
And then I started with a band later on. A medieval Viking band, and we
Hmm.
play on Viking markets. And after that, a lot of
Okay.
yeah. But you were talking about you asked about the instruments.
Yeah. I know you play a whole bunch.
Yeah. The thing is, I see myself mostly as a singer and a
Mhm.
composer and lyricist, and I've always played with a lot of very skilled musicians. So
Mhm.
I didn't feel that I needed to play instruments, but then it started with no, it started with this. It's a
Is that a
Icelandic
long
long.
spill?
Yeah. Oh, you
Cool.
are so good. Exactly.
There's this one skill set I have, and that's Nordic music,
Exactly.
so I own it. I've always wanted one of those. That is so awesome. That was your first
But
one?
yeah, and I found out that I could play both instruments, and it had this heavy. Not now I don't want to play, but it had this really like
Hmm.
wooden straw sound, and I came totally back to the ground.
Hmm.
And I found out that I could play both instrument. I didn't knew that because I
Oh, that's
always
awesome.
I I played my bodhran for many years,
Hmm.
but it's something else, you know. It's not the. And then it continued with the
Oh,
you know, with
awesome. Yeah.
horsehairs and horsehairs. And then I borrowed such one,
Hmm.
moraharpa, a
Cool.
Swedish instrument.
Hmm.
Um, so it's just continued.
No,
I just
I'm the same way. I have
yeah,
so many instruments scattered around this apartment.
so cool.
I've got just like a banjo, a mandolin, and a guitar in here. I have a
Ah, yes, yes, yes. I
fiddle up
can.
there, and then I've got a double bass and so many other things in the bedroom. So
That's
I
so
think
cool. Yeah,
you and I seem to have a mutual obsession with just collecting
yeah,
instruments. So I
exactly.
absolutely get it.
And I, as always says, I'm not a instrumentalist, but I like to make these drones and riffs with the instruments that I can put my
Mhm.
voice and melodies on. So everything is kind of experiments.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Um, so back in the 90s, why were you doing this medieval Viking music? Like before it was cool. I'm always really interested, like for instance, I've had Shell Broughton on and Benny, and they have the same background where they were doing this just at Viking markets before it was this cool pop
Yeah,
music
yeah,
phenomenon. And
exactly.
so I'm always interested in what got people like you guys into this really early on, like in the 90s.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I always felt that I should live in another age, in another time period. Always
Mhm.
felt that I was more all these modern things. I don't understand them. You know, probably know how it is.
Yeah, I feel it.
so 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 that was natural for me when I should have brought my dress, but I made a dress with a Viking dress, and I had it
Mhm.
on daily. Uh,
That's awesome.
and I had it on the Roskilde Festival, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I was walking around like a Viking in the night since there. Yeah.
Yeah, so you've
So
been
it
interested in that stuff for a while. Like even like
yeah,
before
and
even the music came in, it was just like culturally and just like it just gripped
yeah,
you.
I'm brought up with my parents taking us to historical places
Hmm.
and told us about Viking places. I live near Roskilde
Hmm.
and Lejre.
Hmm.
You know that place? Yeah, it's a very
Yeah.
old Viking area, and
Hmm.
we always went to these places, and my father talked about all the historical stuff. So I'm I got it in. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just want to take a second here to like say you are so many of the musicians I've had on here to talk to always talk about how their parents bringing
Yeah,
them places
exactly, exactly.
sort of like uh, nourished or cultivated this appreciation for this sort of stuff. So for any young folks listening who are maybe a little disgruntled with their parents, that they're not totally full of crap. So sometimes it is worth it when they drag you places you might not want to go. So
So
I just love you're another example of that. We're like, oh, my parents dragged me this, but I loved it, and now you do this style of music, which is awesome.
yeah,
Um, so you mentioned that you were in a band with your sister because something that I would love to learn more about is, as I was reading up on you, because I have to say, I really fell in love with your musicianship and your style of music when I listened to Lysbærer for the first time. When I was going through all of the By Norse records, I was lucky enough to meet Ivar over the summer at this music festival here, Fire in the
yeah,
Mountains
yeah.
in
Mhm.
Wyoming. And so after I met him and he told me more about his label, I just went to the website and started listening to every band on the website. And I was going through, I had already listened to Virginia plenty of times. I've got a Virginia tattoo and everything. So, I'm used to them. But then, I was listening to Calandra and all these other bands. And then I got to your album, and that was the one that I just kept putting on repeat. But then when I read up on you, and I read that you've been active since the 90s, and I see that your first solo debut album is 2022. That's a lot of like mystery lore that I'd love to get into. So how were you? Like, what were you mostly doing as a musician from the 90s until you finally got the opportunity to do your own solo work?
Good question. I have mostly been playing in bands, and I have several bands, started up several bands. I started with my sister, so it was a duo. Then I started Gny, that was a medieval band playing on Viking markets, I told you about before. And then I started Asynje. This is a folk band, and we also made some Viking music. We made a whole CD full of it was dark folk. Yeah, and that was in 2001 or something. Then I went to a metal band, Huldre, a folk metal band.
You were in Huldre?
Yeah, I was.
What? Oh my God, I had no idea. Okay, so I had a feeling that your answer would slowly reveal to me that you were already in like that I've already heard you in other bands. I had no idea you were in Huldre. I love Huldre.
Oh, thank you.
All right, cool.
So, but and I've been making lyrics and melodies and stuff like that. But it has always been, this kind of that we work together and come up with many ideas and so. So, actually, the solo thing.
Yeah.
It started. I've tried so many things with the other bands, and we have been on festivals in Wacken and Copenhagen and everything. So I've kind of been really outgoing, really. I've been wild on stage.
I love it.
So and then I had a period where I kind of said, "No, I don't want to make Viking music or anything anymore. I'm so tired of it. I have done it so
draining."
No, I've just been doing it for so many years, and I was kind of saying, and now it's popular, so I don't want it anymore. So no, but then I bought this instrument, and I was thinking, okay, I will make some modern music with it. And then I had a dream at night where I was actually in a local place where there was excavation, and they've in the town. Now I'm talking about a dream, So it's And I was finding a lock and a key, an old Viking lock and an old Viking key, and then the lock disappeared in the dream, and then suddenly a hand came in with the lock and the key again, and like room. And next day I made a song, "Skelfe Yggdrasil." That was my first single.
Beautiful
and it was
song.
Viking, and it was kind of okay. I thought I shouldn't make this kind of music anymore, but
that says a lot about dreams. Sometimes
it was very
they kick
symbolic.
You down the right road.
Yeah, it was so symbolic, and it was kind of okay. I can't just stop here. And then then I started to slowly make my solo project, and all the instruments kind of.
Fast forward a few years, and there's just going to be instruments everywhere, and you're only going to have one corner of your own home. It's
already like that. Animals and instruments all over.
Oh, I love that. So what was it like, or what was the process like finally getting into doing your own debut, your own solo album? Because I know you've already told us that you see yourself mostly as a vocalist and a composer, so you're probably doing a lot of things by yourself already, but then that involves some sort of collaboration eventually at some point in the process. So how different was it approaching a debut album? Or sorry, I keep saying debut instead of, it's midnight for me, for anyone listening, so that's why my words are just replacing themselves. So solo album, how was it different, or like what was it like finally being given the opportunity to just have sort of complete, maybe autonomy is the right word, or maybe just a little bit more ownership over your own music, knowing that you're going to have probably the whole say on the music from the beginning to the end instead of having
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
Yep, I'd love to hear
It
more about that.
it was really wild because I was kind of, I was in charts of wow I don't have to discuss with anyone. It was like, it was, and oh no, do I play good enough and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but now I just do it. It was an experiment, and I wanted to express myself totally without any borders or limits or whatever. And then in the single Skal for Yggdrasil, I was working with Christopher Juhl from Hilo.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It was very, very good, and he also kind of helped me with the scene. And later on with Lysbærer, I have been worked with Fige van den Hoek from the Netherlands.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and she was totally in it from the second, and it was such a good collaboration because she knew exactly what I wanted and what sound, and she helped me with. I came with all this and this and this and then she, yeah, okay, I help you kind of structure it more, and yeah, and she had put some layers underneath as well. And I recorded sounds from nature, and and then yeah, it was one of the best studio sessions I think I had, because I was totally totally free.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was the case, because I've always, I've because I have to listen to so much music just for like my job and just my studies and all that. I've usually, I feel like I have a pretty good ear for when I can usually tell when someone is having a really awesome time recording.
Yeah.
The phrase we use in the States, I don't know if you guys have this colloquialism over there, but lightning in a bottle. Do you know that phrase?
No.
Lightning in a bottle is a phrase we use when there's just a creative energy, and it's like you uncork a bottle and lightning just shoots out. And
Okay,
that is the sort of image that comes to mind with Lysbærer, where it's just like you had all these ideas in your head from all of this time as a musician, and all you needed
exactly.
was like to just uncork that bottle, and all of a sudden there's just lightning everywhere.
Yeah.
And so it's funny to hear you. It's funny to hear you say that that's pretty much how it went, because that's how it sounds, to me as a listener. Yeah. So yeah, that's got to be such a fun experience, like finally being able to have your music, and then you have friends who and colleagues who come in to help you make your vision into a reality. And now, speaking of your vision,
and instead of having a band, I kind of had my producer that I could kind of, hey, I have all these ideas to do. So it was different than there were not so many to discuss with, but there was one that I could kind of took care of.
That is so nice as a musician. I remember
process.
Oh yeah, I remember one of my fondest memories from high school is when my teacher my history teacher did a quick lesson on democracy, because he was teaching us about democracy versus dictatorship, and wanted us to understand like the nuances of it. He said, let's all vote on what our class color is. And it was like this 10-minute process of people debating what the class color was going to be, right? Exactly. And then we vote, and it's this long process. And then he says, okay, now we're going to have someone just tell us what the class color is. And it took 5 seconds, and our color was blue. And so that's that's like the image in my head when you have when you finally have your own say, like you are your own dictator when it comes to music. I say exactly. This goes, you're open to influence and input from others, but ultimately it's nice to just, this is what I want.
Exactly. and it was also like, oh no, it's not, oh, is it good enough? No, come on, you can decide. It was really like
we can actually, you know what, I would actually love to talk to you more later about those feelings as a musician, because I feel like we need more musicians talking about that side of making music, of
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the imposter syndrome, self-doubt, all that sort of stuff. So remind me to ask you about that again after we
yeah.
talk about the album.
Yeah,
So
you had a question.
yeah, your creative vision. You have this interesting play of when I was reading the background on the album. Um, you talk about wanting to go from like the deep roots to the high mountains, and then you also want to talk about you also want to work with the energy of the sun versus the moon and how there are these contrasting things. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about that vision going into this album and how it influenced the music you wrote?
I wanted to kind of it's the title is Lysbærer,
Mm-hmm.
holding a torch,
Mm-hmm.
and Lysbærer, carrier of light. It could also be the sun
Mm-hmm.
and the moon, and the whole year circle. So I wanted to express. It's actually started in I always make music in this time,
Mm-hmm.
actually. December, November, I'm mostly creative because I'm in my core, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm a November child, I think. So it's my
I'm the same
birthday.
way. I'm the same
Yeah.
way.
And people often they get uncomfortable with the dark, and they get sometimes uncomfortable with their own um, feelings, and their own dark sides. Um, so I actually wanted to kind of shed light on the sorrow, on the anger, on the everything, kind to dig down to the roots. um, yeah. Um, but and then I wanted to kind of holding this torch
Mhm.
to light down of on all these feelings. And it's like it's
It's very
also
metal.
because this is metal.
It's very metal, just the whole dealing
Okay.
with negativity or like, oh,
Yeah. Oh,
we're all
yeah. Probably.
sorrowful
Yeah.
and all it's yeah.
Yes, but actually, that is how I make music best. That's when I'm
Mhm.
sad and angry, and I kind of use this energy. I never make happy songs, so it haven't happened yet. It's always minor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but it was kind of I really wanted to kind of show these deep feelings, and also connected with the year cycle. So it's yeah, that
No, I
we are just nature, and we are chaos, and we are cosmos, and we are. It's not like light and dark, and it's not
Mhm.
like the dark is dangerous. It's kind of, hey, come on, embrace it instead.
Mhm.
Instead, sorry,
No, I love that.
yeah,
I actually I would love for you to say more about how, because I know that I have quite a few listeners who are really into this style of music, because of this I don't know, healing, uh
yeah,
uh the meditative healing
yeah,
restorative side of it.
exactly.
So when you're making this music to sort of like process their more negative feelings of, the winter, it's cold, it's dark, it's snowy,
Yeah,
it's still beautiful. We all love winter, but like at the same time, we all hit that point eventually where we're like, oh my God, I miss the sun. So when you so when you are making this music to sort of process those emotions, like do you find that it actually helps with like keeping your spirits up? Or I don't know, I'd love to hear you talk more about how this music works with like your own emotions, or helping with your I don't know, mental state during the winter.
but it is like it is like healing, and I also
Mhm.
wanted to be that people should heal the healing thing,
Mhm.
also digging down in their dark sides and the sorrow. So I think that is very healing to
Mhm.
kind of feel the sorrow, feel the anger, and feel that we are not perfect people, but we can always rise. It's we always have to kind of no matter what, no matter how deep we go, we have to kind of rise.
Mhm.
And the torch thing, the Lysbærer thing, is
Mhm.
also to hold light for others if they're not able to find the light themselves, to kind of, hey, come on, it's okay that you're sad, it's okay that you're depressive or
That
whatever.
is beautiful.
you can rise. It's
Mhm.
it's just a cycle of life that it goes like this.
I mean, it
And
helps.
as a musician, I know really wow, I'm living like that, you know. So
Yeah, so does this now to bring the seasons into it, does this look of life as being the seasonal thing, or you said earlier we're cosmic beings. How does this cycle, the cycles of the seasons and everything, does that have anything to do with how you view this life thing being up and down, up and
yeah,
down? Mhm.
yeah. Totally, and especially in the north, I think that we are programmed to kind of have this thing where we in the wintertime go into ourselves and go more into to a deep emotions,
Mhm.
and because it's cold we have to stay inside. And in the summertime we're outgoing and more like and hormones, you know, and and everything.
Mhm.
So it's and in it's have always been like that. uh,
Mhm.
and you can see it in old what's called um, yeah, you know, when you celebrate something, you celebrate the light, and whatever.
Mhm.
I love this time of the year
Mhm.
actually
Yep,
because
it's my favorite time of year. Yeah.
because it's where I think I'm more myself, and I'm
Mhm.
more open, and I'm more you know, it's like we are gathering inside around the fire,
Mhm.
kind of and telling stories, and kind of really think that that is from you know, the old patterns.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
There's actually a lot of I remember um I read something about why this time of year, the autumn season into the winter, is so captivating for humans. Because I just noticed that this is the time of year where people, even people who don't touch hippie stuff with a 10-foot pole, all of a sudden they're really into going outside, sitting around the fires, carving pumpkins. At least in the States, that's what we do. And someone wrote something about the fact that when the leaves start to fall,
yeah,
it represents the conclusion of a cycle.
yeah, exactly.
And so I wish I could remember the exact quote, but it encourages us to reflect on our own time and what we've been through. And
Yeah,
so there, you connect that into a grander scale. You start to reflect on traditions, your
yeah,
family,
yeah,
customs, where you're from. I'm actually from New Hampshire here in the States, New England. And New England is, Boston, that whole area where it's known for sort of being like a little time capsule of
yeah,
like
yeah,
17, 1800s America. Um, where it's all folksy and everyone's in these old houses and everything. And
yeah,
that is the part of the country that goes the craziest over like Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas time.
yeah,
And it really is a magical time. When those leaves start to fall, it does. You almost start to reflect a little bit more
yeah,
as
yeah,
your year comes to a conclusion.
yeah.
Um,
It's it's also death, you know,
yes,
withering, and the end of many things,
yeah,
life, and yeah,
yeah, because
yeah,
grieving almost encourages you to do these sorts of things like, oh, look back on the happy times, look back
yeah,
at all of this. And so when we see that the leaves start to fall and things start to die in the autumn, it sends us into this little seasonal grieving process,
yeah, yeah,
where
exactly.
we start to go through the grieving process, but
Yeah, yeah,
about our year. um
yeah.
I've always found that really fascinating because I'm the same way. I get the most musically productive like October into January. Um, I also just hate
Yeah.
the heat. I hate sweating. I hate
Me
all that.
too.
So so
We
I
have an
love
Nordic,
I
so
yeah, right. So I just love, Colorado's nice because it gets really cold at night and all of that, but during the day, that high desert heat, that can really hurt. Uh and then do the Danes have the term bolkos from Norwegian? It's a
focus.
it's a the term it's the term to be like cozy around a fireplace or
No,
around a
hygge, hygge
oh, so
in
you guys
Danish.
use huga. Okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
Yeah, that's one
Exactly.
of
We
my
use it a
favorite
lot.
terms. Yeah, that's one
We
of my
use it a
favorite
lot.
terms.
Yeah.
It was even I have my first little solo album coming out in a few months, and I named it Bolkos just because
Ah,
I was inspired, and I wrote and recorded the whole thing in October, this time of year we're
yeah,
talking
yeah,
about.
exactly. Yeah.
And I definitely relate to you that something about that feeling of, customs, traditions, being around a fire with either by yourself or with friends and family. It's really good for the mental health. And so that's a part of your music. I'm taking it that you really try to embody that feeling of being around other people in this time of year with the fire.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but also in the solo,
Hmm.
being alone and being okay
Hmm.
with being alone, because we,
Yep.
yeah, but it could be good to be around
Yep.
many people, but it's not difficult
Yep.
sometimes when you live in the countryside.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The
But then we have, of course, all the music that we gather around,
Mhm.
and that can come
Absolutely.
into other people's homes. It's
Hmm.
so I feel that also I want this CD to be kind of a, I would call it CD album,
Yeah.
to be kind of a blanket that you can feel that you are kind of taken care of.
I love that.
So so so
I never thought about it that way, but that is how I feel like I'm putting on a
yeah.
big fluffy coat, or
Yeah,
big
yeah,
fluffy
yeah.
blanket. Yeah.
With spikes also, and
This is a good time to talk about the negative feelings of being a musician, because
yeah,
I have a feeling this was going to come into that question anyway. When you're sitting alone and you don't have the validation of bandmates or band members
yeah,
who are like, "Oh no, this
mm,
is awesome," and instead
yeah,
you're
yeah,
just looking in the mirror. Sometimes you're staring at a wall like, "Does this suck?" So
yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
how do you? I would love to hear you talk more about your experiences with self doubt or these negative feelings, that I'm sure plenty of musicians can relate to, in the process of doing your first solo album.
It was actually like, the most difficult part is how much am I able to um, to fill out,
Hmm. Hmm.
uh, how what is it called, to emerge, or what is it called? No, when you have, you're like, I'm here, or if
Oh
you're
yeah,
here,
open up.
um, yeah, um, it was difficult for me to, can I can I can I play all the instruments myself? Can I do all the lyrics myself? Can I just do it? And I was sometimes, I got even some kind of anxiety when
Hmm.
we listened to the tracks and my vocal was too loud. No, it's too loud. No, it's too loud. Yeah, but Nana, it's a solo. It's okay. It's okay that you can actually hear the voice. So so it was always kind of like that. Oh, I can't play the instruments. Yeah,
Hmm.
but just do it. Just do
Hmm.
it. So it
Hmm.
was an experiment of just doing things instead of just continue kind of putting up borders. Then I
Hmm.
should just do it. So yeah,
Yeah, so you
and
experienced throughout the recording, you experienced a lot of times where you would listen back to yourself and just be like, "Oh, this is awful," but then you would have to remind yourself, like, "No, this is the best." Yeah, I mean, like, you're doing great, right? You have to be your own coach,
yeah, I was not thinking that it was awful,
right?
but I was afraid to be too much,
Hmm.
to kind of
Hmm.
um, when you're playing bands, you shouldn't just decide everything, and you
Hmm.
shouldn't go and take other people's energy. So you have to kind of
Hmm. Yeah,
yeah.
being
But
totally
now I
self-reliant, it's scary.
yeah, yeah. But now I could kind of fyle in Danish. I don't know the word, but
Lead,
yeah,
lead, is that what?
yeah.
Mhm.
Also lead, but also um, kind of emerge, or yeah, I can't find the word. I will find
Oh,
out
it's
when
all good. It's
we're
all
talking.
good.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
when you're dealing with these negative feelings, or this self-doubt or this anxiety, did you find that there were any tools or tricks that you could keep returning to maybe get yourself back on a more optimistic track with how you were viewing, the work that you were doing? Was there some sort of mantra or just frame of mind that you would return to whenever you were feeling self-doubt or negatively about yourself, like maybe not being good enough or something like that?
Yeah, it was actually again like, hey, I'm good enough. It's good enough what I do. I do my
Hmm.
best. I
Hmm.
can't do more because I'm doing my best. And I have people around me that help me. Also, my
Hmm.
producer Fige, she was very good at saying, "Hey, that it's so fine. Don't worry." And so when I panicked, so it was always, "Hey, this is a process, and
Hmm.
enjoy the process." That was actually one of the main things, that I had to enjoy the process, all of the parts of the process, also the anxiety,
Hmm.
also the kind of
Hmm.
and experimental state, and to because I wanted to challenge myself. That was why I have done so many things. I have been playing in so many bands, made so much music, and now I wanted to challenge myself.
Hmm.
So it was a part of it. Yeah.
Yep. 100%, because I know, it's just it's so scary when you're, because we live in this, we have this this music culture, music society that we have all around the world that aims for perfection.
Yeah.
um and so you can attain it two ways. You either find a musician who is actually perfect and doesn't need much help, and then they get famous and everyone's listening to them, or you do so much studio magic that you can make anyone sound like they're perfect, right? And so when you don't want to do, when you yourself are not perfect, right, or when you don't want to spend all the time on the studio magic, you're sort of left feeling like, well, now I'm at a disadvantage. And now what can I do? I can't compete with all of this, but I don't feel like going through all those steps for perfection. Instead, I just want to make music. And this is a recurring theme that I hear, and this is actually what I admire about the musicians in your music scene so much, is that between you and both of the Broughtons and others I've talked to, Runehild, they it seems like perfection isn't even a goal. Instead, it's really just
Oh
this
no.
idea where
Yeah.
I'm doing the best I can, and as a musician, people should appreciate that I'm even doing the best I can in the first place,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it takes a lot of work to be a musician. And so I've found that people are, especially in this music scene, the people who don't play it but rather listen to it, I feel like I appreciate them too because of how receptive they are to this idea where it's like, we don't aim for perfection. Instead, we just
No.
aim to give you the best we can and to give you
Yeah.
an experience unique to me.
Exactly.
Yep.
And also, now you're talking about Kjeld Borden and Runehil. I know they're also working on getting their spirit,
Hmm.
and they have to have spirit in what they're doing.
Hmm.
They don't want. It's like we now I will say we because I'm
Yeah.
very similar to them.
Hmm.
We want to have a feeling about everything. It shouldn't be this perfect high pitched whatever. It's the feeling behind.
Hmm.
It's really you you should go totally. You should feel it, and you should cry when you listen to it.
Hmm.
and
Yep.
and um, sometimes my boyfriend, he has been in the process as well,
Hmm.
because if he cried when he listened to some songs, then it worked. Okay, then it's good. Oh, I said he cried, but it's good. If you kind of, oh, yeah. So
Hmm.
so that is yeah, and also my producer, if she get touched, then and if I cried myself in the process when I was standing in the studio
Hmm.
recording, then if I cried, then it worked. And yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and that requires. Would you agree if I were to say that that also requires some level of? It's funny. This sort of goes against the idea that when you have a solo album, you have a lot of the say in it, because in a lot of ways, you're also trusting in the listener, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
you're releasing that part of the control where you can only control what you do, but you can't control what the listener does, right? Like when I put
No.
on, every time I put on Lysbærer, you have no control over what I think of it or how I take it, outside of just you playing music. And so you
Yeah.
sort of have to trust in a way that even if what you're doing isn't exactly technically perfect, that the listener will go with you on the journey,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just trust that you're gonna give us a good time, and that's
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly what happens. That's got to be scary, right? Like when you're like, okay, I've done all I can. Now I just hope that it resonates.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, but I have also been trying it with other bands,
Mhm.
so it's not new for me to give something out,
Right.
and I just hope that they could feel that I had my feelings with me,
Mhm.
and I wanted to give them something, that I want to
Right.
give people experience. Um, yeah, and I feel that it's actually turned out perfect.
Mhm.
It was kind of it's the first time I kind of say I can't put a finger on anything I could have done better, and it's very seldom that that happens
That's
as a
beautiful. I was
musician.
about to say, like, as a
Yeah,
musician myself, I envy you because
yeah,
I've yet to feel that.
yeah,
Whenever I release anything, I'm like, uh-oh, I don't think this is as good as I wanted it to be. But that's just, different stages. But
yeah,
I just was like, it's relatable what you go through, and that's why I'm really enjoying picking your
yeah.
brain about, this whole process.
It's not very Danish to say that you're kind of proud of things, because Danes are often like, we have a law in Denmark.
You have a
We have
law?
this law. Yeah, it's called Jante law. It's a law where say you shouldn't believe that you are anything. You shouldn't believe in
Hmm.
yourself. Don't be too much, and it's very Danish,
Hmm.
and we are. It's in our system, I think,
Hmm.
that no, yeah, but now it's, hey, this is this is as good as it could be
No,
in
that's
the case.
awesome.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I'm so happy that by the end of the process you had that feeling. But now I
yeah,
have to give Matthias crap because he says that it's an American thing to go, oh, it's whatever. It's whatever. And now I'm gonna come back to him and be like, Matthias, I heard something interesting. It's actually a Danish thing to do that. So I'm tired of your
yeah.
crap. He just loves to pick
We
on us.
Yeah, yeah, but we often says that Americans are kind of bragging, rah, rah, rah.
Yeah.
We say
No.
that, and that's because we don't like that people have this. Oh, I'm so good and like this,
Mhm.
but it's. I think it's good that there are people that know their own values,
No, I
and
know. Mhm.
as Danes we really had to learn that. We really had
Yeah.
to learn it because it's not in our system.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. It's it is very interesting. Because a lot of Americans are probably listening to you right now saying, "Oh, we have like this cultural rule where we don't take ourselves too seriously. We're very humble." A lot of Americans are like, "Screw that. I
yeah,
don't want to do that." Yeah.
but it's a good thing. It's a good
I
thing
think, yeah,
sometimes, but yeah, and we really have to learn it
humility
here.
humility
Yeah,
is very important. So I would love to, I guess the last question I have for you would be, you've gone through all these music styles where even though they have this common root of this Viking medieval dark folk sort of thing.
yeah.
Um, this album particularly, Lysbærer, uh, what does this music mean for you? Um, does it mean anything different from when you were with Huldre or doing, music back in the 90s? Is there, I think what I'm trying to get at here is, a lot of people are always like morbidly curious at the style of music, like, oh, what do they see in it, right? Like it's just acoustic heavy metal. And so I'm always just sort of I always love asking the musicians such as yourself, like, what is special or different, if anything at all, about playing this style of music compared to any other musics that you've played? Like, what does this mean to you?
You mean my solo album?
Yes, the solo album. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's. I think you can hear that I have been through the other styles.
Hmm.
That I have a metal background
Hmm.
as well. That I have a folk background. That I have been doing this for many years.
Hmm.
I have a bit of growling, and there are distortion
Hmm.
in the layers behind. And I think that this is kind of the. I think it's a core of what I am,
Yep.
kind of, and a bit more sad or
Hmm.
melancholic, what was the
Yes.
word,
Hmm.
than the other bands, because yeah, that's how I am. I'm
Yeah.
both like this and this,
Yep.
but a bit more like introvert, maybe. I don't know. So
Mhm.
when I play it live, it's I'm used to be like, and this is more when I play live. It's I still make people sing along, and
Mhm.
I I have this thing. I always like people to be connected when I'm on
Mhm.
stage, that they sing along or
Mhm.
they're doing something that interactive. And this music is a bit more dragged
Mhm.
back. Um, so it's different to I'm more like this, but it will when I have my band on. I'm working on the band,
Okay, cool.
so
Hell yeah.
I don't have I have mostly play totally solo and
Mhm.
with a French guy as well, and my band should kind of take over all the instrument things, so I can be more outgoing
Oh,
on
that
stage.
that's
Yeah,
so awesome. I like that you bring this up because I feel like this is always something that is interesting to non-musicians. I mean, just a little anecdote. My wife and I went to go see one of our very good friends uh play with his bluegrass band. He's a very talented bluegrass guitarist, a lot of chicken picking, all that sort of stuff. And she was really curious why, like, when he went up on stage, even though this was like a small venue, he changed his clothes. He was acting differently. Like, musicians have their performing personality a lot of times, not all of them, but musicians tend to have a performing side that is different
yeah,
from who they are just day to day life. And
yeah,
she found that fascinating because she never considered that, like, musicians, the reasons that we go into this is because we do often look for ways to express ourselves in ways that we can't in day-to-day life. And so I just find that I love that you're bringing this up too, where you go up and down. You can be like this, then you can be like this, but then on
yeah.
stage, right, it seems, you say that you're pretty introverted, but then on stage you don't seem introverted at all. And so that's like the opportunity for you to express yourself differently.
Yeah, and I actually think that being on stage and
Mhm.
playing music and yeah, everything that has to do with being a musician and
Mhm.
expressing my voice and
Mhm.
my feelings had kind of really. I was very shy introvert when I was younger,
Mhm.
and it made me more outgoing and more lively and it's really cool when you see me as a child sitting with the organ,
Mhm.
singing sweet songs until I'm standing like, yeah. It's really it's you can see the process, and
Yeah.
I integrated that now. I think I integrated myself on stage and my personality in private
Mhm.
life. I think I integrated that very well. So I don't think you can see that much
Mhm.
different actually.
Yeah.
So when I said introvert, it's more my solo album is a bit more like I don't scream so much and yeah,
Yeah, it's more reflective.
yeah.
Oh, what is the
I
word?
was kind with
Yep.
with Huldre. I was kind of like it was. I was sometimes too much
Mhm.
because I was like, and yeah, and I shouted very strange things sometimes on stage. I wouldn't talk about that now, but, but yeah. Um, I also have a doom metal band called
Mhm.
Etia.
Oh, okay.
That's
How do you
also
how do you spell that?
like a Danish
Mhm. Mhm.
Ter. Yeah, Etia.
Okay.
And this is a doom metal, and it's also like more. I can't be like the happy thing because
Mhm.
it's really like it's really heavy and really yeah.
Mhm.
So it's I think yeah, I'm sometimes really like and sometimes I'm really yeah. So it's
Yes.
yeah.
So when you're getting this band together, so I don't know if you can answer the question I want to ask, which is, are you going to be playing at Midgardsblot? So instead, I'm going to ask a different question, which is, are you going to be there just as a person, or not as a musician? Do you go to Midgardsblot? I don't recall if you were there last year, but I was wondering if you were going to be there this year.
Well, what?
Midgardsblot.
No, Midgårdsbro. Yeah, yeah. I hope. I'm crossing my fingers that I could
Yeah,
play
so
there.
yeah, because I don't know if
Yeah,
you can answer. I know they haven't released bands, so I don't know like what the background is on like what you can say. But I was just wondering if you were just going to be there anyway. Maybe you might happen to play music there when you're there, but I feel like a lot of
yeah.
people would love to know if you're going to Midgard's Blood, so we can get to meet you after your this debut album.
I'm crossing my fingers.
Awesome.
Yeah, but yeah.
Hell yeah, because that's that's what I look forward to every year now. I went to the yeah, it's just a great time. And there was
But it
just
was actually I played at the first Midgard with the
Mhm.
Huldre, yeah, in
Yes,
the
yep.
back in time.
Mhm.
And this year when I was there, just
Mhm.
without playing music, I had such a much joy just walking around talking and listening and kind of instead of always be kind of on. So I
Mhm.
really enjoyed that.
I'm jealous. I'm jealous. I because I was like half working. Right? I had so much stuff I had to
Yeah.
do that like I couldn't see Newtland, for instance. I really wanted to see Newtland, but I
Oh yeah,
had
yeah.
somewhere to be. So like I'm so envious of you that you're like, oh, it was so nice not having to do anything. I'm like, ah. So yeah, so with this band and with hopefully we'll be seeing you play live sometime. I know it's hard to tour in the States, but if you're ever around in the States, if you get the opportunity to come play in Colorado or something, you
Oh
let me know
yes, I would like to.
because yeah, me and Matthias would absolutely love to see you guys here. It'd be great. So I know you just put this album out this year, so it might be a little too soon, and I don't want to pressure you, but are you working on anything new? Like what's next? What's next for the Nanna Barslev project?
It's a time where I compose, so
That's what I was getting to. I was getting into
so
this
I
idea.
can't help it. I can't help it. I already have a half album, maybe.
Oh, awesome. Hell yeah.
So, but yeah, I just have to come out and play live. I think
Mhm.
before I
Yep.
release another album. But I have definitely, yeah.
Or you could just do the Dark Throne approach and just keep putting out albums every year but never play
Oh
live.
yeah, yeah,
You could do that,
yeah, yeah,
just say, oh, it's black metal, right?
yeah, exactly. And
uh,
then I also make workshops, singing workshops.
oh, cool.
With I have my own strange methods.
Hmm.
There's also some kind of shamanism in it,
Hmm.
and connecting to the voice and the nature, and
Awesome.
yeah. So I work on that as well, and it fits well with my music, kind of. Yeah,
Yeah, sounds
what
like
I
it.
want to do.
So I guess one question that I did miss out on is but before you wrap up here is, so let's say someone's listening to this interview but they've never listened to your music and they go and they check out your new album. Is there a favorite track of yours that if they were to just try out one song, I know ideally listen to the whole thing, right? But if
Yeah.
there's one song that you feel like sums up the Lysbærer experience, which one would it be?
I think my favorite song is Mod Vrede, Against Anger, it's
Hmm.
called. Because I found an old Danish spell that kind of can protect you through if people get angry at you.
Hmm.
And I have worked with spells for many years.
Hmm.
But this was yeah, I'm kind of sometimes a bit afraid to release
Hmm.
such spells, so
Yeah.
I change them sometimes a bit and milden them up,
Hmm.
so they are not so I made it to a more like a protection spell
Hmm.
instead of you shouldn't do that, but it's like
Hmm.
yeah. um and I really felt that was one of my first riffs on this Mora harper,
Hell yeah.
and I think it's yeah, I think it's very grounded. Yeah, but
Yeah, I mean, like
all the
for
songs are
I know they are. I feel like what I love about this album is that there's no build up time, right? Sometimes you listen to albums and the the first few songs you're like, yeah, this is pretty cool, but then it's like the third or fourth song where you're like, oh, cool, now I get it. For you,
yeah, yeah,
the very first track, again, gonna pronounce Danish Skjoldmo.
yeah. Skjoldmø,
Skjoldmo. All right.
Shield Maiden.
Shield Maiden. Like
Yeah.
you come out swinging. Like that album starts off like that song is incredible, and then I cannot remember the name of the one that follows that. But then the next song, and then it just keeps rolling. There's no
Oh,
build up
thank you.
time. I just for
Thank you.
anyone, yeah, for anyone who hasn't had the wonderful pleasure of listening to this album yet, just put on the first track at the very least and just give it a try because it is so good.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So Nana, unfortunately,
And
we're gonna have. Oh yeah,
it was also made out of kind of anger.
good. Oh, but it's a good. Like you
So a
processed
lot
that
of them
very
are kind
well.
of rare.
Like when I put that on, I'm sitting like air drumming along. I'm like, oh hell
Oh,
yeah,
that's
this
good.
is awesome. Yeah, yeah. So Nana, I would love to talk to you so much more. But we're gonna have to wrap up here. Where can people find you if they want to follow you, learn more about you, hear your music?
Yeah, they can find me on Facebook and on
Mhm,
Instagram, and yeah, out there at
mhm,
venues and concerts, hopefully.
mhm.
Yeah,
Hell yeah. And then I just like to put in a little plug for anyone listening. If you love the album, please buy it. Of course, it does help to, it's not like streaming it is completely useless, but if you can buy the album, it's the most helpful thing you guys can do to support these wonderful artists.
that's
So,
right. Thank you.
yeah. So, Nana, it has been an absolute pleasure to talk. Thank you so much for jumping on a Zoom call with a stranger from across the ocean. I really appreciate it. I'd love to have you back on next time you have an album out, and please let me know whenever you. I know visas are tough right now for the states, but if you get the opportunity to come play in Colorado, let me know, and I'd love to see you. Maybe show you around a bit. All right?
Yeah, thank you, and thank you very much for inviting me to this. It
Oh
was
yeah,
awesome to
absolutely,
speak with you. Thank you
hundred
very much for
percent.
you, and you have very good questions. I really like them.
Oh, that well, you have very great answers. I love hearing what you guys have to say about this sort of stuff. It really fascinates me, because I feel like this whole music style just is it's so unique and so special, this whole music scene. But like there hasn't been anyone really paying attention to it in terms of like covering it or something like that. So that's just I feel like you guys have a lot of really valuable and interesting experiences as musicians that I just feel like helps a lot of people. And so far, I found out that that is the case. Where the unique experiences and perspectives that you guys have in this weird, beautiful music scene. It
Yeah, yeah.
There's some
We
needed
we
perspectives.
yeah, and we're all using the nature and the
Hmm.
history and the feeling of ancestors,
Hmm.
and I think that is the common thing, and
Yep.
the and some of the lyrics that we made ourselves or
Hmm.
inspired by old. So it's
Hmm. It's also the
we all have the
connectedness.
same.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is
yeah,
that connected feeling. It hasn't been put up yet, but I just had a wonderful interview with Rune Rasmussen of Nordic Animism,
yeah.
as
I will meet him
yeah, and
Saturday.
awesome, as well as Christina Kammerer and
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
Shell Broughton, and we were talking about what can I had to play devil's advocate because I hate this question, but I
Mm,
had to ask like what can music do for the environmental crisis, like what can it realistically do, because a lot of people seem to think that oh it's
mm,
just pretty sounds, it can't actually make a difference, but we went down to this really interesting rabbit hole of just music has this incredible ability to connect people just
yeah,
through
yeah.
communicating in ways that you otherwise might not be able to communicate with someone unless you both speak the same language. um, and I feel like this music style better than most, I would say just along with a lot of other folk music, better than most has a really powerful way of connecting people with each other, their place, and
Mm,
their heritage, because that's absolutely like the ancestry. That's a big part of it, where people feel like when they beat on a bodhran, they're feeling
yeah,
something deep.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
that's why I love having you guys on to share your perspectives, because um I just feel like it's not fair that you guys show up and play music, but then like no one talks to you about it. Because you guys just, as I said, I'm beating a dead horse at this point, but you guys have such valuable experience that I think is helping a lot of people right now, especially coming out of COVID, in a time where a lot of us feel disconnected from each other, and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
with
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
all the other crap that goes on. uh, your guys' music does a lot to help people through times like this. And then hearing your own thoughts on it, I feel like adds to the experience. So I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come and
Yeah.
share some of those experiences with me. It's been a really wonderful experience talking to you, Nana.
Thank you, and thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Now,
And
you now.
the
Oh,
the
yep.
the thing is with us musicians in this genre,
Mhm,
we know each other,
mhm.
many of us, and
Yeah,
we
you
know
all know
that
each
that
other.
yeah, and we have the same goals, and we have the same connection to nature, and I think that
Mhm,
we kind of feel that because our music is like grounded in
mhm,
some way, and inspired from nature, we hope that people can more go into the spirit of nature,
mhm.
um, a bit shamanistic, animistic
Yeah.
feeling, yeah. And when we started, I say we because
Mhm.
there
Yeah.
more me,
Mhm,
it was new kind of, people were not used to think about pastimes and nature in that way, but it's emerged, and more people are doing it. It's now you find people everywhere that kind
mhm,
of have the same feeling and connection to nature and history.
mhm.
Um, and it's so wonderful. It really kind of it blows
Yeah,
up.
you guys really kicked down the dam, and then the waters started flowing, and now it's just
Yeah,
this.
but it's all over.
Oh yeah.
It's like, not only music, also in art, and
Hmm.
also, more books are coming out.
Yeah.
It's really, one one time people, in history,
Mhm.
people think that the Viking Age was just, oh, no, it's, and now it's more normal. So
Yeah,
it's
I
the
I
the
mhm.
whole the whole scenery about past time and
Mhm.
nature kind of emerged in a few
Yeah,
years.
I actually I just had Nils on from Hindarfjell.
Oh
Um
yeah, I
and we
know.
just, yep, I had a feeling you might know him. Uh well, and Frederick from Torolf. They
Yeah,
both joined me last week, and they were
yeah,
talking about how back in the 90s in
yeah,
Sweden, if you were
yeah.
wearing a Thor's hammer pendant,
Uh,
people just thought you were a Nazi.
it's
And
exactly,
yeah, and
exactly.
they were talking, they were talking about how, even though we were talking about how, even though there's like the increased popularity of Vikings has brought a whole different set of problems with, misconceptions, people using, Vikings for their own
Yeah, yeah,
weird ideas. At the same time, it beats not being able to wear a necklace your ancestors wore out of fear of being called a Nazi. So it's just like you get a trade-off where, even though it's more popular, people have more misconceptions of it. At least now it's more socially acceptable
yeah.
to
Exactly, exactly.
do this sort of stuff. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
So Nana, thank you so
yeah,
much for being on this show. I'm gonna have to have you on again, and I really look forward to meeting you at Midgardsblot next year if you go.
yeah.
I will definitely be there. So please, Nana, don't be a stranger, and please stay in touch. And I hope to have you on again next time. All right.
Thank you, and thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay.
It was
Now go give
lovely.
that. Yeah. Now go give that pup some love. Now that you stop barking.